Hey bookworms, it's Jade from Bedtime Bookworm and welcome back to my channel. Today is the start of another reading vlog. Okay, so today is Sunday, March 1st, and I have finished a couple things since the end of my last vlog. So yesterday, the 29th, was Leap Day, and there was a readathon happening on Leap Day that I took advantage of because I needed to finish the two books that I was in the middle of. So in the morning / early afternoon, I started by reading Caliban's War. I was like 90% through it. I only had maybe 85%. I only had a little bit left that I needed to read, and I just laid in bed and read all morning until I finished. So I will say a few things about Caliban's War, but not too much because by the time you see this video, my wrap-up will have already gone up. And honestly, I don't have too much more to add other than what I already talked about in my last vlog. My feelings didn't change a whole lot before the end of the book. It did have a bit of a slow start, but once things started going and I could see the direction the story was going in, I was super invested and really interested in the plot. And also, this book introduces two new characters that I absolutely love. They were two female characters that are like sassy and so funny. I thought that the climax of the story wasn't quite as intense as maybe the climax in the first book, but I still enjoyed it. And then the ending, like literally the last sentence of this book had me going, what? And now I'm dying to read the next book. So I really like the way that this ended. And yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it and I gave it 4 stars. Then the other book that I needed to finish before February was over is my audiobook of Before They Are Hanged. And this one was a little bit harder to finish. I was only like 50, maybe 55% through it yesterday. So what I ended up doing was I pulled out a puzzle that I had started a few weeks ago. I reassembled what I had already put together. I put my big headphones on and I just sat and listened to the rest of the book in one sitting, which took me quite a while. I did have I think I had 10 hours left of the audiobook, but I did listen to it at 2 times speed, so I think I was listening to it for about 5 hours yesterday. And I may have actually finished it after midnight, but it still totally counts as finishing it on the 29th. This one I also gave 4 stars. I enjoyed my time with these characters, but my biggest complaint, which I mentioned previously, is just that there's a lack of plot in the book. Things are happening in multiple storylines, and you just really don't know how the storylines connect. So you're kind of following 3 different storylines with groups of characters that I enjoy spending time with, so I didn't mind. But it's definitely not something that I could love because of the lack of plot. But I still really enjoyed it. Again, the climax in this book wasn't very intense or thrilling to me, but I'm still really interested to see where their story is going to go, and I hear things kind of tighten up plot-wise in the last book, and that you really do kind of see how things are connected, and I'm excited to get to that point. So after finishing those 2 books, I today have started 2 new books. My physical book is going to be this one, Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb. This is a memoir. This was my work book club pick for March. We meet in a little less than 2 weeks to talk about this book. This is, like I said, a memoir about a woman who's a therapist, but it's about a time in her life when she went to go see another therapist, and it's like little stories about her life and about her going to therapy. And I am currently on page 40, so I've read a little bit of this and I'm really enjoying it so far. I think the woman sounds really interesting and I am really interested to see what's going to happen. Definitely not my typical type of book, but that's one thing that I like about participating in my workbook club is that I pick up things that I wouldn't normally gravitate towards, and sometimes I really like them, sometimes I don't. And then for my ebook audiobook options, I have decided to read The Gilded Wolves by Roshni Chotsky. I'm reading this because it is one of the YA nominations for the BookTube SFF Award, so I need to read it in the next couple of months. The audiobook is available on Scribd, which is great, only I've already started listening to it, and the male narrator I don't love. I just don't like the way that he narrates. Also, I noticed that the audiobook on Scribd is missing the prologue. I don't know if all of the audiobooks, like no matter what platform you get it on, are going to be missing the prologue, but I mean, it's a very short prologue. I don't think it's a big deal, but it is something that I noticed that I thought was weird. But luckily, I still have the ebook for it that I got out from my library, so I can read from that when I don't want to be listening to the audiobook. I am about 9% into that, so not very far. I'm finding the world building a little confusing, but I'm so early that I'm not worried at all. Anyways, that's what I've been reading since the end of my last reading vlog. Hopefully I make some good progress on Maybe You Should Talk to Someone and The Gilded Wolves, but I will let you know what that progress is the next time I check in. I will talk to you soon. Bye. Hey guys, oh, let me open this. I was just taking a thumbnail for a video that I just filmed. It is Friday night at 8:40 p.m., so quite late in the evening. Well, I mean, not that late for a Friday night. Like I said, I just got done filming, so that's great because I find it so hard to film during the week. Although if I'm going to film any night of a weeknight, it's Friday. I mean, does Friday count as a weeknight? Because it's the weekend the next day, but I did work all day, so that's what I'm counting. But I find it easier to muster up the energy on a Friday evening compared to like a Tuesday or a Wednesday. Anyways, I have a few things to update you on. Let's start with the book stuff. I'm currently reading Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb, and I gotta say, I am enjoying this way more than I thought I would. Like, I can hardly put it down, which is good because this is overdue at the library, but I'm not going to have an opportunity to go to the library until Sunday, so I have until Sunday to finish it, but I'm only halfway through. So it's good that I can't seem to put it down, but I'm definitely really surprised at how interesting I'm finding this. I just think that she is an interesting person, and then like her insights as a therapist are fascinating. My degree in genetic counseling, my master's degree, involved some counseling as part of my training. So I think that definitely is one of the reasons why I'm finding it fascinating. I'm loving this way more than I thought I would. So I only have that book physically. It's a newer release that apparently is really popular, and I have not been able to get a e-copy or an audiobook copy. Even though generally I do like to listen to memoirs, they're also generally narrated by the person who wrote the book, and that's not the case for this, although I have heard that the narrator is really good. Either way, I wasn't ready to splurge on an audiobook copy of it, so I'm just reading it physically. My ebook that I'm currently reading is The Gilded Wolves by Roshani Chotsky. So I did actually start listening to it, but I really don't like the audiobook. The male narrator in the audiobook, I don't want to say he's terrible because obviously that's like a personal opinion, but I just really did not jive with the male narrator. The female narrator was fine. And that was the thing, is like I kept listening, and every time I would listen to the female narrator, I'd be like, oh, this is fine, I can listen to it. But then every time it would switch to the male narrator, then it would kind of drive me nuts. And I can't really pinpoint exactly what it was. It was the way that he ends his sentences. He sounds like he's narrating like a BBC nature show or something. I don't know if that makes any sense, but anyways, I didn't like the male narrator, and I thought that I could put up with it, but after getting 20% into the book, I was like, I can't do this. I was worried it was going to affect my overall experience with the book, and because I'm judging it for BookTube SFF Awards, I didn't want to let that happen. So I'm only going to be reading that on ebook, and honestly, it's off to a pretty good start, which I'm a little surprised by. I'm finding the world really interesting and the magic really interesting. The magic is almost like science, like they've been able to do things with their magic, like create objects and stuff that are almost like things that you would see in a sci-fi book. And I just think that is really cool. So I needed to find a new audiobook, and it took me a little while to figure out what I was going to listen to, because I have all of these BookTube SFF Award books that I need to read, but a lot of them I'm only able to access physically. But I found one on Scribd that I could listen to, and that is Gideon the Ninth. So I started Gideon the Ninth, but I'm only like one, maybe two chapters in, so I don't have much of an opinion on it. My only thought is that I was not expecting Gideon to be a woman. For some reason, Gideon sounds like a male name to me, and I thought that the main character of this book was going to be a male, but no, she's female, and I'm excited about that. I'm also really excited that this book is about necromancers in space, and I need to know more about how those two things go together. So that is my reading update. The other thing I wanted to tell you guys about, or just like give you a heads up about, is that tomorrow I'm going to be going to the North Texas Teen Book Festival. It's a YA book festival that takes place like 40 minutes from me, and I've gone the last 2 years. I'll link a couple vlogs below if you're interested. So this year I'm not going to do a whole separate vlog like I have in the past because I have this vlog. So I'm just going to be putting in some clips of the day in the next little section, which is why I wanted to give you a heads up on what you were about to see. I was looking through the panel topics, and there's pretty much one every session that I'm interested in. There's a lot of authors that are going to be speaking that I want to see speak, so I think I might be spending most of my time in panels tomorrow, but there's always like arc drops, and if I find out about them in time, there might be some arcs that I end up picking up. So if I do pick up anything, I'll include a haul at the end of the vlog. But yeah, I'm really excited to go to the North Texas Teen Book Festival. It's been a blast the last 2 years, and I love seeing authors talk on panels because it's just so interesting to hear about their writing process and where they get ideas for stories, or they talk about all kinds of things in these panels, and I just think it's fascinating, and I love being in a room surrounded by other book lovers. Granted, at this book festival, there are a lot of like actual teenagers there. Makes me feel a little strange for being there, but I kind of look like a teenager. Alright guys, that is all I have for this clip. I will check in with you guys again early next week. Bye. Hey bookworms! So it is now Tuesday evening, like 6:25. I just got off of work a little while ago, and it's time to wrap up this vlog. So first I'll start with BookNet Fest, or that's not the festival I went to. The North Texas Teen Book Festival that I went to on Saturday. I had a blast, but if you couldn't tell from those clips, my plan of just staying in the panels all day did not happen. I did make it to one panel and I had a lot of fun. It was one at the end of the day, but it was one that had a couple of authors that I really wanted to see, one of which was Kiersten White. You guys know I'm a big Kiersten White fan. I just love her so much, and this is probably the third or fourth time that I have seen her speak or met her. I didn't actually meet her on Saturday, but I have in the past. I've gotten some books signed by her before. I don't know if you guys follow her on social media, but she is hilarious, and she's just as hilarious in person. She always says like really insightful and funny things, and I loved seeing her. She was definitely the highlight of my day. On that same panel, there was also Marissa Myers, who I have never seen before, and I'm a huge fan of the Lunar Chronicles, so that was really great to hear her speak. Rory Power was also there, which you guys probably know I didn't love her debut novel, but I'm interested in her newer book that's coming out. It's more of like a mystery thriller. I don't know, it sounds interesting, but I can't remember what it's about off the top of my head. And then the other two authors on that panel I actually wasn't familiar with. One of them is the author of the book that just came out called Anna K, which is like a retelling of Anna Karenina, but set in New York City with a half Korean protagonist. And I don't know anything about Anna Karenina, so I don't know if I would like that, but it sounded kind of interesting from how she described it. And the other author has done some like Disney retellings. Oh, the topic of the panel was retellings, so that's why everyone there had written some sort of retelling. So I really enjoyed that panel. I do wish I had seen some more panels than just that one, but I got distracted by ARCs, which are advanced reader copies if you don't know. So you probably saw from the clips, but I'll do a quick haul, I'll go over the ones that I saw. Basically, when I got there at 10, I knew there was a panel at 10:30 that I wanted to go see, but I was like, let me go check out the booths and see what they're giving away and see if I can figure out when they're giving different things away. And the first booth that I went to, they were giving away copies of The Light in Hidden Places by Sharon Cameron. And this is a book that just came out, so it was a little weird. They were giving away ARCs for something that was already out, but I'm not complaining because I got a free copy of it. And this is a book that was on my anticipated releases, which I posted like last week. And this is a historical fiction, a World War II historical fiction, and that I'm really interested in. So I was really happy to get a copy of this, and it's actually signed. Oh, and there's a bookmark. I don't know when I'm going to read this. Since it's already released, I'm not in a huge rush, but I definitely want to read it like within 2020. And then after that, I heard that they were going to be giving away a copy of House of Dragons by Jessica Cluess. This is coming out in May, and this is another one that was on my anticipated releases video that I'm really excited about. It's a YA fantasy, and this author is the author of A Shadow Bright and Burning. I believe that was a duology in the past. Maybe I'm wrong, but I remember here, or maybe it was a trilogy. I remember hearing good things about her previous work, and so I was interested in this new one that was coming out, and now I have an ARC. I'm definitely going to read this and review it on release day. Super excited about that. And then another one that I actually really hadn't heard too much about, but once I looked up the synopsis, I thought it sounded really good, is Sisters of Sword and Song by Rebecca Ross. And this is coming out in June. This is the author of The Queen's Rising, which was a duology, The Queen's Rising and The Queen's Resistance. And I kind of heard some good things about both of those books. The other thing about this synopsis that caught my eye is that it's about sisters, as you can tell from the title, Sisters of Sword and Song. But yeah, I am excited to be reading this one. I wish that I could have done both. I wish I could have been in two places at once, because I do love to hear authors speak on panels, but it's really easy to get sidetracked by free new books, and so I spent most of my day just waiting in lines to get these books. I'm still happy with the way the day turned out. I still got to see a couple of my favorite authors speak on panels, and I also got some ARCs that I'm really excited about. That was the thing, is I didn't want to end up with ARCs that I was not excited about. Okay, moving on to my book update. So I have finished a book. I finished the Lori Gottlieb book, Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. I don't have it with me anymore. I had to take it back to the library, which actually made me really sad because I loved this book so much. This book was really meaningful, and there were a lot of quotes in it that really resonated with me. It was just really interesting to see her perspective as a therapist on the few patients that she covers in the book or includes in the book, but also on herself. There were so many passages that I just really wanted to like highlight, but I couldn't because it was a library book. I actually think I'm gonna buy my own copy of this, which I almost never do after I've read a book. But it's one that I actually think I would reread in the future. I feel like it's one of those books that when you reread it, you'll get different messages from it just based on like your current circumstances and the things that you've been through. So there were a few things that really resonated with me in this moment, but I think that if I read it again in a couple of years, that there will be different things that stick out to me then. I thought this book had a lot of good insights just like on therapy and what it's like. I think it would be good for people who are interested in going to therapy or always have been curious about what happens in therapy. And I also think that it can help like to destigmatize going to therapy. This book touches on a lot of subjects, including like loss of a child, loss of a parent, or like a critically ill parent, terminal cancer, and just lots of other things. I really think reading this book made me a more empathic person and just like more understanding of the human condition. And I think everybody should read it. It was so good. Okay, moving on to the more typical things that I read. I am about this far, so I've read this much of The Gilded Wolves by Roshni Chokshi. She was actually on that panel the retelling panel, but I forgot to name her. And it was really interesting to hear her speak. She talked a little bit about this book. It isn't one of her retellings. She has another series of retellings, and she joked that this is a retelling of the classic movie National Treasure, but without Nicolas Cage, which was really funny and kind of gave me a different perspective on what I was reading. So many people describe this as being very similar to Six of Crows, and while I see the comparison, there are heists involved in both, and there is like a misfit group of characters in both. This is very different. What I'm loving about this book is the world and the time period. It's set in like 1900, I think, in France and Paris, right around when the World Fair was happening. And I'm really liking the magic because of the way that it's kind of turned around and like used in a sci-fi way. Like the things that they're able to do with their magic seem very science fiction to me, and I really like that. There are some things about the writing that I'm not loving, and I'm not like super invested in it yet, even though I'm like a third of the way through. So things are still a little bit up in the air, but overall I'm enjoying this a lot more than I thought I would because I had heard like not great things about it. And then I mentioned in my last clip that I was starting Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir on audiobook, and I am really enjoying this. First of all, the female narrator, there's only one narrator. The narrator of this book is fantastic. I had to look her up. I want to say her name's Moira Quirk. I don't think I've ever listened to her before, but she is really good and definitely like helping me to enjoy this book even more. So I definitely recommend the audiobook version of this. But I am glad that I was able to get my hands on a physical copy from my library because some of the names of the characters are a little bit weird and there are kind of a lot of characters. So last night I spent some time kind of flipping through, and like there's a character organization chart, that's not what it's called, but like a list of characters in the front, and it describes like who they are and what they do. So that was really helpful to look at. But yeah, I wasn't really sure what to think of this, and I've been pleasantly surprised. Again, I'm not like overly invested yet at this point. I am this far in, which I think is about, well, it's 122 pages, and I think that's about 22-25%, something like that, about a quarter of the way through. So I'm not like super invested, I'm not totally hooked, but I'm interested and intrigued, and I'm definitely not hating it. There's a lot of humor so far from the main character, Gideon, who, like I said, I wasn't expecting to be female. I'm really liking her character. She's like really snarky. The world is interesting. It's definitely unique, and usually unique to me equals love it, but honestly it feels a little bit weird because it's like it's set in space, but it feels very fantasy. And I mean, I like genre bending, but for some reason, like that feels weird to me. Like it doesn't seem like a seamless blend. It feels like it's trying to be too much at once. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's not like a fully formed thought yet, just a feeling that I'm having. So I will definitely update you guys on if that feeling persists or what I think of the world the further I go into it. But for the most part, I'm enjoying it. Okay, talked way too long. Those are my thoughts on what I've read over the past 2 weeks. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more bookish content. That is all I have for now. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bookworms, keep reading. Bye.